Shalomi homies, what is the scoop and how are you guys doing? I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys are having a great week. We are working our way to a Shabbat and we only have a couple of days left. We have today and tomorrow and then we're free. We're free from the work and we're free from enslaving ourselves to the man. For those of you that are slave to the man, like we are, it is a day of rest. And it is a day that we take what our Creator has told us to do and we begin the appointed time. Now, when people first start keeping Shabbat, it opens their eyes. And I think the Shabbat is one of those commandments that is an entry point into the rest of the kingdom road. And the kingdom road is found in Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And it is in those first 5 books that we learn how our Creator wants us to operate. We learn how He operates. We learn what He wants from His creation. And in those magnificent books that were written down by the hand of Moshe, we learn that not only does our Creator have a path for us and a government form of rules and regulations, it's just like the regulations and rules that we are all under as men and women in any government that you guys are into. Say, for instance, you guys blow through a stop sign. What's going to happen, right? You're going to probably get pulled over. You may get arrested. You may get beat up. You never know. Especially in the United States, there's a lot of super aggressive police force in the United States. Now, those government regulations and rules, those are things we have to abide by. But then there's the other set of rules and regulations that our Creator has said, I would like you to do. Now, unlike the police that's going to come out and arrest you, possibly beat you up, if you violate the laws, statutes, and commandments of our Creator, He's patient enough not to have that arresting agent come get you. But at the end of the day, you could very well hear the words, "Depart from me, you who work lawlessness." And those are scary words, because when we're dealing with the only possible thing that we can ever protect as human beings, which is our soul. That's the only thing we can ever take out of this world, right? We can try to financially climb the ladder and secure ourselves and do all this stuff. But at the end of the day, our soul is what matters the most, because it's either going to go to a good place or it's going to go to a bad place. And so we have to adjust our lifestyle to include the Torah so that the Torah is our lifestyle. And that's what the Torah is. Torah is not a religion. It's a way of life. It is a walk that is a beautiful walk. And it's just it's an amazing thing. And those of you guys who have heard us and that we've talked about this, the Yah Scriptures prison ministry before. And before I get into the prison ministry, what you're looking at right before you guys is you're looking at the Big Blue Book, the greatest English translation of scriptures that has ever existed anywhere by far. And that has not been challenged. There's nobody out there that has been able to challenge this. And the Big Blue Book is available in free versions. And you can also get this Big Blue Book at YahScriptures.com. And this is the tool that we have been using to get into our brothers and sisters in chains. And there's certain prisons that we are unable to get the Big Blue Book into. Arkansas is one of them. And it is just, I guess it's just too big, too heavy. And they assume that even people in seclusion or segregation are somehow going to use this thing as a weapon. And I tell people it's bulletproof because it will absolutely stop a small caliber gun without a shadow of a doubt. It is huge, and maybe even bigger calibers to some degree. Now, what we experience and what I experience dealing with brothers and sisters in chains is a lot of success when it comes to trying to get people to understand the same thing I'm trying to get everybody out there to understand, is that the laws of our Creator are for all people, all times, all generations. Even if you're awaiting a lethal injection, especially if you're waiting a lethal injection by some place. And at some level, all of us have a death sentence. All of us have a time and a metric where we will breathe our last breath. Our Creator knows the exact time of everybody and when their days will be gone. But inside of the prison system, I run into a lot of things that it's just a struggle. One of the things, I was talking to this guy, and I asked him in one of these emails. I said, he was quoting Paul. Paul said this. Paul said that. Paul. And I'm like, is Paul your God? So he wrote me back, and he's like, you're not doing this in love. This is not the Christ-like love. And he's like, I gave you all the sources of what Paul said. And I said very clearly, brother, you're quoting Paul. You're not quoting our Creator. And so it is a struggle even to those. And this guy's in Arkansas. He's awaiting an execution. So his time is almost up. And since his time is almost up, he has this once saved, always saved. The commandments are dead. I live this way. And it's very, very sad because there's people I cannot reach. I cannot get to them. And I was pretty much done talking to this guy because it's just like some point you hit the wall, and it's like a lot of guys I will take on a personal communication with, like they were lifetime brothers, and it is regardless of their beliefs. And some guys are so ignorant of the truth and pious and pompous in their responses. And I guess at the same level, so am I, because I will tell people point blank that they need to be keeping the laws of our Creator or they're going to go to hell. And that is really hard things for people to hear. But sometimes it is what people need to hear. And like I told him, I said, I wish you the best, and then he sent me another email this morning. He said, Jesus said all the laws are fulfilled. He's like, I don't have to keep these laws. And I just, it's like, instead of arguing, instead of wasting my money on these stamps, and it's more like the money that you guys help us do, because it costs us $21 for I can't remember. It was like 50 stamps. I think it's 44 cents a stamp. And Arkansas is even more expensive. They just completely tax you. So it's one of these things that I am trying to be very responsible in the fishing that I do, because I know there's a lot of you guys out there that are supporting me and rooting for me. And I see that because when you guys get these scriptures and you get them from Yah Scriptures, you put in stamps. And I can't thank you guys enough for that. I cannot thank you for the ability of enabling us to deliver these scriptures to brothers and to be able to write these brothers and try to fish for men where it is. But you guys are going to see the same stuff out in the world, right? You're going to have all of these people. And a lot of you guys out there, there's only 2 of you, and you'll have the entire families that hate you, that they've gone against you because you don't keep these pagan holidays. You don't do this stuff that is against the will and of our Creator. And so it's one of these things that we absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, need to make sure that we are in line with our Creator, that we are doing His will, that we are separated from the rest of this herd, because the rest of this herd is not making the kingdom. And it very, very clearly says this. So, guys, right before what you guys see is you see Yah Scriptures right there. For those that still want this is a limited edition print. As I've said before, I don't know if we'll get other scriptures out there. I don't know if we will get the big blue scriptures again. I know for a fact we have the small ones en route. They are on their way, and they are being printed up, and we are looking at, they actually sent us the final mock-up, which is going to be it's going to be a book that has nothing on the pages. It's going to be exactly what the printed book is going to look like, as long as the outside and the sleeve. And we got you guys a cool little sleeve for the outside, so it'll protect the scriptures, because it's not as, it's just like a regular book. And when people start using, regular books in mass and just a ton, you destroy the covers. And so this will help the covers. And it's a very, very nice small scriptures. And so what you see right before you, though, is limited edition. So I do believe this will be a collector's item at some point, especially if we don't make another print of these. And so get them while you guys can. The free versions are all at YahScriptures.com. Now, we are getting into the 7th chapter of 1st Esdras, and I'm going to give you a quick recap of this again, because I think it's important that we know the history of this. And so I'm giving you guys a recap of 1 through 6 right now. Now, the book begins with the account of Yoshiyahu, who's Josiah, the king of Yehuda. And he was keeping the Passover, and it was celebrated with a great devotion, according to the written instructions of Moshe. Yoshiyahu restored proper worship and destroyed idolatry, but he was also killed at battle by the Pharaoh. And that was in the first chapter of that. And the second chapter, we have Nebuchadnezzar, and he took many captives from Yehuda, including the vessels from the house of Yehuda. Then you have the third chapter of this, and it's a completion of wisdom, as there were 3 guys that decided that they were going to try to become the king's right-hand man on this. And so they devised this little plan, and the plan was very successful, and it showed why that women and the Elohim were the strongest of all things, and nobody had any words to say over that. So the fourth chapter, Zerubbabel, he reasoned and impressed Darius. This was the final completion part of the wisdom of these guys. And because of Zerubbabel's reasoning with Darius, they confirmed the command of Koresh to rebuild the house of Yahuwah. And they also promised to fund its construction from the royal treasury. Heading into 5, the exiles start returning. And in 5, it was a big, long honker. I think it was like 70 verses. And it was all of the people that returned from captivity. And one day there's going to be another book written, and it's going to detail all of us that are leaving our captivity, because we are all captives. We are all born into a pagan, heathen culture, a culture that does not love our Creator. They love some guy named God and some guy they call Jesus. And their Jesus, this fake Messiah, he lets people do whatever it is they want to do. He lets people sin, and you can pray to him, and people think he's Elohim Most High. People literally think that the Son, that has been called the Son, from prophecy all the way throughout the Apocrypha, especially in the book of Adam and Eve, it talks a lot about the Son. The Son is not the Father, and the Father is not the Son. It is why that you had stories like Abraham, where Abraham was supposed to sacrifice his son. And it wasn't Abraham jumping on the altar and killing himself, it was his son. And that same test that Abraham came through and passed is the same test that our Creator and his Son went through and our Messiah passed. And it's because of him passing this that he became our Melchizedek priest. He became our salvation. He became our rock. He became our coach. He's going to be the one who leads us in the kingdom to come. And it's going to be, he's very much qualified because he was with his Father prior to creation, which is very, very clear. And chapter 6. The adversaries wrote a letter to Artaxerxes, accusing the people of Yehuda of rebelling and warning that if Jerusalem is rebuilt, it will no longer pay tribute or obey the king's laws. And they killed off of it. Or actually, what they did in this one, they went back through everything, and even though the guys were attempting to thwart all the plans of Yehuda, the king actually taxed them and forced them to give new wine, corn, all of the stuff, bulls, cattle, all the stuff that they would need for the temple. Now, continuing into 6, actually, we're heading into 7 today. So 7 is where we are at right now, and 6 was the end of the contention at that point. Now, we are going into the amazing free app that is available, absolutely free of charge. You guys can download this. We hope it's going to be in the Play Store here very, very shortly. We're finishing up the development testing on it. I think probably under 10 days, I think it will be in the App Store, and then you guys will have access to it. Now, here we are into the first book of Esdras. We're into chapter 7. And let's make sure. Yes, so we are into 7 right here. So here we roll. Let's go. Then following the commands of sovereign Darius, Tattenai, the governor of Coele-Syria and Phoenicia, and Shethar Bozenai, with their companions, oversaw the Kodesh works diligently assisting the elders of the Yahudim and governors of the Hayekil. And so the Kodesh works prospered when Kaggai and Zechariah the Nebuim Nava, and they completed these by the command of Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, and with the consent of Koresh, Dariwesh, and Artakshasta, sovereigns of Paras. And so the Kodesh house was finished in the 23rd day of the month of Adar, in the 6th year of Dariwesh, sovereign of Paras. Now again, all of these names of these months, we don't have months names. We have the beginning of the year, but we don't have these names. And when we're reading these names, like the month of Adar, this is simply in our text because when all of these guys went into captivity into Babylon, there was a couple generations inside of those 70 years. You would have had a couple of different generations, and a lot of these guys grew up under a pagan culture. It's why a lot of us get on our knees to Nimrod's phallus on December 25th, which is it's a satanic day. It's a combined day. We didn't know, right? We were adorning this, what is literally the phallus of Nimrod with gold and silver and putting a star on top of it. And, the history of Nimrod and why everybody is infatuated with his private parts is because when Esau killed him, he chopped him up. And his wife, Semiramis, went and attempted to put him back together. And the only piece she could not find was his privates. And so that's why in Washington, D.C., you have all of these giant pillars. All over the world are giant pillars. They're not just like skyrocketing pillars for a reason. They are in memory of Nimrod's privates. As vulgar as that is, I think it's all important that we understand what it is. And when you guys take on a satanic day, such as even Christmas or Ishtar, right? You're running a satanic seance. You are running a satanic ceremony, regardless of what you feel in your heart. It's not what you feel in your heart, is what our Creator has said. And we have to realign our hearts and our lives and our minds and to His ways, which is very, very important. So continuing on in this, and the children of Yisrael, the Kohanim, and the Levites, and others who were of the captivity that were added to them, did according to the words written in the book of Moshe. And for the dedication of the Hayekil of Yahuwah, they offered 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 lambs, and 12 goats for the sins of all Yisrael, according to the number of the heads of the tribes of Yisrael. And this is really interesting too, because at this time, we're only dealing with like 2.5 tribes, right? Not everybody went to captivity. Some people disappeared and some people left. But for the majority of the people, 10 tribes are in captivity with the Assyrians. They're long gone. They've been distributed across the 4 corners of these lands that we are on, these plains. And they are the people of the end times, right? They are the people that we are the people that discover that the Torah is good. The Hebrews 8 people, the people that talk to each other and everyone talks about the Torah and everybody knows the Torah because that's just what our part of our lives are. And so we haven't hit that point yet because most people, when you say Torah, they're like, oh, you're a Jew. And we're not Jews, right? We are Torah keepers. We keep only the scriptures. We don't break Deuteronomy 4:2, which says not to add to or take away from the commandments. And every single religion out there violates Deuteronomy 4:2. Worshiping on the wrong day, eating the wrong foods, the way they pray, the way they get baptized, the way that they do all of this stuff, it is unbiblical. And so we have to realize there's just a lot of stuff that we are stuck into because we were captives in this world that we are in. Now, 9. The Kohanim and the Levites also stood dressed in their garments according to their clans, in the service of Yahuwah Elohim of Yisrael, according to the book of Moshe, and the gatekeepers at every gate. And the children of Yisrael who were of the captivity held the Pesach, the 14th day of the first month, after the Kohanim and the Levites were kadosh. Those who were of the captivity were not all kadosh together, but the Levites were all kadosh together. And so they offered the Pesach for all those of the captivity and for their brothers, the Kohanim, and for themselves. Now, there was, we have rules inside of Passover that we need to be clean when we are observing Passover. And there's actual rules that if you are not clean, that you would celebrate it at a different time so that you can celebrate Passover. And it's one of these amazing things that, Passover is one of these miracles that, every firstborn of everything in the land of Egypt, we're talking goldfish, we're talking cows, we're talking sheep, talking insects, the firstborn of everything was smoted, waxed, gone, destroyed. It was killed off. The only ones that were saved were the ones that had the blood on their doorposts and the lint on the top of the doorpost. And so we are when you're celebrating the Passover, one of the most amazing things is the entire timeline of our Messiah. Now, a lot of people, I do not believe that the Last Supper was a Passover meal. It was a Last Supper. It doesn't talk about any of this because at the exact same time that the people were killing their lambs for Passover is when our precious lamb, our Messiah, Yahushua, died. And just like Passover, that no bone can be broken, you're not supposed to break a bone on the lamb that you're eating. The same thing goes for our Messiah. No bone was broken. And when they thrust a spear through him and water and blood came out, that was the blood. There was blood pouring all over the ground. When you read the book of Adam and Hawa, Adam and Eve, it is very clear that is a very symbolic piece of this entire story is that spear being thrust into our Messiah. And so Passover is something that, it's one of these appointed times that we are all called to take a part of. And we're not going to get it all right because a lot of us aren't able to sacrifice a sheep and not break its bone and do it according to scriptures. But that doesn't mean that we should not be attempting this and practicing this, because this is what the kingdom is going to be about. We will have a Passover. We will have a Shabbat. We will have the Feast of Trumpets. We will have Sukkot. All of these same things that we are told to do are simply rehearsals for the future. And if you want to be members of the community of Elohim, then we absolutely have to know what our roles are. And our roles right now are keeping these laws, statutes, and commands, keeping these appointed times, showing others that it is possible and it's not impossible, because religion has brainwashed everybody into like, oh, nobody can keep the commands. You have no idea how many times I've heard, oh, Jason, you're going to do sacrifices too, Jason. And it goes over and over and over because they've been brainwashed. They've literally, it's the same as the guys like Jim Jones and Charlie Manson and those that are in, the called out cults. The same thing is a cult. Christianity is a giant four-letter cult. C-U-L-T. And it's a cult because you believe things that do not exist in scriptures. You have a doctrine that is completely anti-scriptures. You believe a small part of a book with these fuzzy, good-feeling words of Paul, when Paul by himself would completely confuse anybody, which is why we all need the Torah, which is why we all need to read these scriptures. We need to write them on our hearts, minds, and souls. When our Creator says that, in the Shema, Deuteronomy 6, that we are to love our Elohim with all our heart, with all our mind, with all our soul, and we are to impress these upon our children. That's not a maybe. That's what we need to be doing. We're supposed to be talking about this Torah when we get up. We're supposed to be talking about it when we go to bed. We're supposed to write it on our gates and our doorposts. And frontlets between our eyes. It is so important that everything that we do in this world is based upon Torah. And if it is not based upon Torah, then we're leading ourselves astray. We're faltering. We're not doing this as we should. So continuing on. I think 14. And they performed the feast of Matzah 7 days, rejoicing before Yahuwah, for he had turned the counsel of the sovereign of Ashur toward them, to strengthen their hands in the works of Yahuwah, Elohim of Yisrael. And so there we are, another appointed time. We have Passover, and then we have a 7-day feast. You have high Shabbats in those days that inside of the Feast of Unleavened Bread. That it's two of the days we have high Shabbats in this. It's the first day, and it's the last day of this that we are told to absolutely take the day off. It's just like a Shabbat, except it's a feast day, so we can cook, we can do what we need to do to keep people fed. But as far as doing servile work and doing what everyone else does, these are the days we take off. And you definitely feel separated and set apart because these end up right in the middle of a work week. And these are times when we are scheduled to be at places, and when one of these days is on one of these work days, we disappear, we're gone. And this year was really, really weird, as we had to literally take off time that we have at this what they call a gringo market down here, and we're the ones that set up all the tables and we start at 3 a.m. Tuesdays are our worst days of our week, which is why you guys don't hear from me on Tuesdays, because I'm not happy, because we're out there rocking it. And so we were gone. We told everybody, and so all of a sudden, all these things that we've been doing for a long time, everybody had to do their own stuff, and it was weird. Where did Boss Clan go? Well, we're keeping the appointed times of our Creator, as we were told to, and doing the very best that we can. And I think that's it, guys. I think that is it. The laws of our Creator are amazing. They're spectacular. I know I probably sound like a broken record, but every once in a while we'll get stragglers on here that will sit and listen to these things, and it's a wonderment, right? When people say the laws are for all generations, all time, that's not something that anyone says. And so when you hear this, you get a lot of people give you that look, and their eyes and eyebrows are down, and they just don't understand. And so, guys, read your scriptures, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Much love to everybody out there, and until we meet again, shalom, shalom. I'm out.